Hi scientists, Happy New Year and welcome to semester 2 of 7th grade science. This is the video recording for lesson 1 of semester 2, so we'll be going through module 1. Here is what my homepage looks like currently, and I have the current unit, which is a new unit that we're going to start today. You can get to it by clicking this button, or you can go to modules as usual. So we are doing module 1 today. So as always, please do your warm-up. It's always a good either a review or a preview. It gets your mind thinking, so pause and do warm-up 1 right now. Okay. So you should have done the first warm-up. Now there's no correct answers, but it asked you some questions about energy. So our unit that we're starting today is all about energy, and we'll be doing this topic for the next 6 weeks or so. So very important that we get ourselves organized. Do not skip this step. Go to your Google Drive, and hopefully you set up Google folders. Hopefully you've already had the same folder from last semester for science class. So whether you're using a new folder or last semester's, either way is fine, but find your folder for this class. So what you're going to do today is create a Unit 4 folder called I've Got the Power. Our unit on energy is titled I've Got the Power. So since you don't already have this folder, I need you to click that new button. Make sure you're inside your science folder. So notice I'm using the same one from last semester. You can do the same thing. So click new, click on folder, and title it Unit 4, I've Got the Power. All right, so there you go. Now you have your folder. Everything you put into this folder, I can search it up in my Google Drive because you've shared it with me. So now that you've got that, we are going to hop into our notes for today, the most important information. And you've already created your folder, and we're going to copy these notes and move them to the Unit 4 folder. So open up this copy. We have some guided fill-in-the-blank notes, complete with study questions. When this fully loads, you can move it into your science folder. Don't forget that step. Stay organized. You'll thank me later. Move it into the Unit 4 I've Got the Power folder, which is currently empty. Move here. Now you've got your notes in there. These notes, which is called Notes 1 Energy Basics, these are going to last us for the next 3 class periods. Go ahead and fill out your name, period, and date. And this entire sheet of paper is going to describe it's going to tell us how we can describe energy and categorize energy. So today we're going to do a little bit of both, describing and categorizing. Okay, so I'm going to go through the notes with you. As you go through them, follow along and fill in those blue blanks in your note sheet. So, I've got the power. Yes, you do, but where did you get it? Our unit inspiration comes from a song that I've linked the music video to. It's from the year 1990, so a little time travel inspiration for this unit. All right, so let's go ahead and not listen to that song since this is a video. Scavenger hunt. Do a scavenger hunt with yourself. Look around your house and identify some things that represent energy in some way. So in the class that I just had, we had things such as a phone or a tablet, a battery, and a lamp. Can you think of anything else that represents energy in some way? Then think about what those things have in common. A phone, a lamp, a battery. Is there something that they can all share? How can you describe what energy is? So now that you've got that in your mind, let's see what physicists say, and you're going to fill in your notes on this next slide. So physicists say Energy is the ability to do work. So you might have said that doing work requires energy. Yes, it does. Energy is all around us. Everywhere you look, you can identify examples of energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. This one's super important. We're going to focus on it a lot. You might also remember that matter also cannot be created or destroyed. Well, look at the world around you. Everything you see, everything you can name, can be either classified as matter or energy. So the universe is made up of those two things, matter and energy. Neither one of them can be created or destroyed. Energy can be transformed from one type to another. So we're going to talk a lot in this unit about different types of or forms of energy. And we're going to talk about how one form can turn into another form and another form and back to the first form, and they can all shape shift. In addition to that, energy can be transferred from one place to another or an object to another. So, for example, this battery is storing some energy that can then be transferred to this light bulb and light it up. That's an example of energy transfer. It's also an example of energy transformation because we're taking some electrical stored energy here and we're transforming it into light. So lots of different changes happening. All right, all of this should go in the first section of blanks in your notes. What is work? So our first definition for energy is that it is the ability to do work. Well, in science, the only thing that counts as work is using force to move an object a distance. So this man is pulling force to move this wagon a distance of 30 meters. That's considered work. Wind could be doing work to move the branches of a tree because they're using force to move the tree branches even just a small distance, okay? So we're only talking about work if it's a physical movement of an object using force. Now, you're gonna pause for the next 3 minutes and watch this video, which of course can be found in the second section of your module. And while you're watching this video, you're going to fill in the blanks for force and gravity in your notes. Okay, so you should have already done that. Skip. Now, since you just watched that example, that video that gave some examples of force, you should be able to think to yourself of an example of something that you've done today that was force. So the video taught us that force is a push or a pull to move an object. So you've done something today that required you to push or pull even slightly. All right, so let's get to our different types of energy. We're going to start with some big categories. So there's many different types of energy, but all of them can be put into either one of these two categories, potential or kinetic. Potential or kinetic. So potential energy is stored energy. You might think that you might know the word potential as in, oh, this student has a lot of potential, and that means that they are storing a lot of ability, right? So potential energy means that it's storing a lot of ability to do work. Potential energy. Potential energy is stored energy. Think of a battery. A battery stores energy to be used later as electricity. That's an example of potential energy. Pardon me. Kinetic energy is energy of motion. So if energy is not being stored, then it's being used, which means it's doing work. It's moving something using force. So kinetic energy is anytime something is in motion. So, as a good example, we have a lady holding this red ball at the top of a cliff or something and then dropping it. Holding it up here is storing that energy, which is then released as it falls to the ground. Storing the energy, holding it, that's potential energy. The ball has energy just because she's holding it up. Dropping, letting go of that ball, causes it to fall and move. Since it has motion, that's kinetic energy. Now, it gets a little bit more complicated because potential energy can be broken down into two different types as well. We have gravitational potential energy. Gravitational potential energy is pretty simple. It just means that something is high up and can fall or move down due to gravity. So gravity is all around us and it pulls things towards Earth. So if a skier is high up, it's going to be pulled down due to gravitational potential energy. Here's another example. Again, holding a ball, or even if that ball is just at the top of a hill, it still has potential energy. It has the potential to move down. All of these things have potential energy because of gravity, because they're high up. There's another type of potential energy known as elastic potential energy. This is when energy is stored in an object because it's stretched or bent. Two ways to think about this is with rubber bands, meaning elastic, right? Or springs. So rubber bands or elastic can be shown using a slingshot. So the further back you stretch that elastic, the faster and farther that object is going to fly. Same with a bow and arrow. Or springs. So think of objects that require springs, like a trampoline, or maybe a clicky pen, or a couch with springs in it. So those things, if the spring is either squished or stretched, that's an example of elastic potential energy. So basically, anything that you can deform and then it'll spring back into place is elastic potential energy. It's storing that energy, waiting to let it go. Now, again, kinetic energy is just the energy of motion. So let's give some examples of that. We have swinging something attached to a string. We have that same ball over here rolling down a hill. So it's moving. That's kinetic energy. And then we have shooting the bow, right? Or shooting the arrow from the bow, right? Now it's moving. That's kinetic energy. All right, so let's test your knowledge before you do your own practice. Which type of energy is a wrecking ball before it's released? The answer to this one is that it's gravitational potential energy. It's being held up. It can swing down because of gravity, so it's being stored since it's before it's released. A bowling ball rolling into pins. The answer here is kinetic energy because it's rolling. That's motion. An angry bird being pulled back in a slingshot. This one is elastic potential energy because it's being pulled back with a rubber band. All right, before I run out of time on my video, your practice activity is an 8-point quiz where you're going to label examples as potential or kinetic. Good luck, and I'll see you next time.